Hello, and welcome to Cheers. That's one woman's opinion. I am your host, Carolyn Mills. This week we'll be looking at, I forgot to write the episode number down, but it's season two, and I forgot to write the episode down. I apologize. And the episode is called Where There's a Will. It first aired December 22nd, 1983. And I wanted to put a note in here about this because um, Paramount Plus, I have them on DVD, but I'm using Paramount Plus just because it's easier. But Paramount Plus does not have this as the next episode. However, I'm going by the date order that they're aired, not by the Paramount Plus ordering that they do. I'm not sure why they changed the order, um, but they did. So, okay. So I looked it up while I was rambling about Paramount, and it is season two, episode 10. And again, it's called Where There's a Will, There's a Way. Where There's a Will. Sorry, the rest of it's cut off. This episode was directed by James Burrows. It was written by Nick Arnold. Guest cast George Gaines as Malcolm Kramer. And you may recognize him from Punky Brewster if you were a child in the 80s like I was. He played Henry Warnemont. Gaines died in 2016 at the age of 98 from an undisclosed cause. Alan Coss as Alan, Thomas Babson as Tom, Tim Cunningham as Greg, Elizabeth Hill as female customer number one, Jacqueline Cassell as female customer number two. Cheers was filmed in front of a live studio audience was said by no one. Yes, that's right. This is one of those episodes that does not have that intro. So let's just jump into our summary. In the cold open, Cliff gets a call from his supervisor and has to leave, but he can't find his coat among the other coats on the coat rack. Carla dives in the coats and pulls out a red lady's coat. Cliff says that it's obviously not his. Carla warns him, put it on or I take off the clothes you're wearing. Cliff obediently puts it on. He smells the coat and says, well, at least dogs won't attack their own. Where everybody knows your name plays. Sam lights a match for a woman. He puts the match out with his hand. I remember as a child when I saw this episode, not when it first aired, obviously, because I was only four. What did I say it was three? December 83. So yeah, I was only three. I hadn't yet turned four until February of 84. Anyway, I was in probably fifth, sixth grade. I saw this episode and I was totally amazed at Sam's trick with the match. And my mom, who was a smoker, lit her match and then did the exact same trip like it was no big deal. And I was like, oh, doesn't that hurt? And she said, no, not at all. She's like, you just have to know what you're doing. Coach tells him to show her the other tricks he can do. And Diane says, show her the one about the disappearing girlfriend. Sam tells Diane she will like the next trick and puts the match out with his mouth. This actually, sorry, I had an itching foot. This line, not line, trick with the match and his mouth was interesting because I don't know the woman's name, but she's a writer, producer. I'm not sure what she did, but she was in the 200th episode, and she was on the production side, not the acting side of Cheers. And she talked about when Kirstie Alley does the match with her mouth, and that episode she does it in when she's trying to keep Sam from finding out she's smoking. And she was like, "That's a," and it is. I'm pretty fascinated by it. I'm not gonna lie, but was she not around when Ted did this with the same trick? Or was she, now she wasn't around, or did she forget he did it? Because she acts like Kirstie Alley was the first one she saw do it. Not taking anything away from Kirstie, of course. It's still amazing, but it was interesting that only she was mentioned and not Ted for doing this trick. Diane takes an order from a man named Malcolm. He tells her that he has had the worst day of his life, and Diane makes a joke about it. Malcolm informs her that he just learned he has 6 months to live. Diane feels horrible and apologizes. She is so upset that Malcolm offers to get her something to drink. And I think this was sort of a trope back then where the person who is upset needs to comfort the one who should be comforting that person. I've seen it in some other places. The one that comes to mind, especially, is in Golden Girls when Rose Nyland sleeps with a married man and then the man dies and she has to tell his wife and she's so upset. And the wife is like, please, Miss Nyland. She's like, I just lost my husband who's been having an affair with you. I may need some consoling myself here. So I think that is kind of a bit of a trope back then. Carla's trying to figure out how to do the max trick with the hand. Diane wants Sam to talk to Malcolm. Sam asks if he is only saying he has 6 months to live to pick up women. Diane asks who would use that line. Sam quickly says, not me, that's for sure. I love how he's trying to cover that. Obviously, he has done that. Diane asks how to cheer someone up with 6 months to live, and Sam tells her, I'll tell him I've got five. Coach does the max trick with the hand. Sam introduces himself to Malcolm. He asks Malcolm if he got a second opinion. Malcolm explains he's been to many great doctors, and Sam suggests maybe he would get better news if he goes to a quack. The barflies laugh, and Malcolm says that he used to be a bartender. Sam asks him if he can still do it, and Malcolm is happy to tend bar. Malcolm makes a drink while blindfolded as he sings, I'd wish I'd been in Borneo. Um, George Gaines, I believe it was opera that he was trained in, but he was trained musically somehow. He really has a good voice. And it's funny because, I mean, you hear him on Punky Brewster when he's angry all the time and kind of grumpy. You don't associate that with a good voice. But even on there, I remember it's one of the first season episodes of Punky Brewster. He and Punky, she's Slaine with Fry played her. They're in the grocery store, and he's telling her about how he used to do something worth calling, singing, for veggies or fruits or something. And he starts singing strawberries. And they actually said on the announcement, please do not sing in our store. But I mean, he's got an amazing voice. And I think people don't know, a lot of people don't know that about him. And it's a shame because he's really good. The gang is impressed. Apparently, the drink is not that great as Tom spits it out. And I wonder if that's, I think a lot of people may have missed that he spits it out like that. Coach tells Sam how great Malcolm is. He says they should have an older guy behind the bar because customers would like it. Sam asks, what about you, Coach? Coach agrees, I'd like it too. Carla asks someone to wash some beer mugs. Malcolm volunteers. Carla is surprised, but Malcolm says, suddenly I feel like an 18-year-old college boy, and Carla flirts with him. And, well, at one point, she actually makes the comment, so would I. Do you see any around? Which probably wouldn't go well today. I mean, 18 is legal, but he's still an adolescent, and Carla's obviously, I think she's in her 30s at this point. I think she's around 34, if I remember correctly. That's, well, Rhea. Rhea Perlman is, and I assume they're probably around the same age as their characters. Cliff returns. The man who owns the coat is angry. He took so long to get back. Norm tells Malcolm that Cliff is his best friend, and then he tells Malcolm to give Cliff a drink. Sam tells Malcolm it's 11 o'clock. Malcolm says he has to go catch a plane. Diane tells him to come back soon. The reason Diane says come back soon is Sam starts to say, come back before you, like he's ready to say, before you die. So Diane's like, don't say that. And she stops him and she fills it in. Malcolm says he had a wonderful time, adding, someday I hope you'll appreciate how much I really did enjoy it. Diane makes a speech telling the gang that what they did was magnificent, and it strengthened her faith in humanity. She tells them that she would do anything for them. Alan tells her, hot dog. Greg adds, drop the skivvies and dance. Diane calls them maggots. Carla asks who put an IOU in the tip glass. Sam looks at it and says it's not an IOU. However, he does not know what it is. He reads it out loud, and it's a will to the gang at Cheers for $100,000, and it's from Malcolm. They question if it's real. Coach asks Cliff to check it out. everyone runs over to Cliff, who rambles on about it. Um, and it's interesting at this point to me that I assume they know Tom seems to be a semi-regular in the bar in this season and some of the other ones, but they do they not know he is in law school or um I mean they go to Cliff. But then again, it's Coach, and Coach tends to value what Cliff says. He thinks he's really smart, just like Woody did. Sam, however, gives it to Tom, who works for a law firm. Tom says that it looks like Malcolm wants them all to split the $100,000. The group argues over who gets how much. Tom informs that it doesn't matter because I would say the law because the will is not valid under the Massachusetts law. Diane said it was a nice souvenir of generosity and goodwill. Carla says she wants her money, and they all chant money, money. And you probably noticed throughout the series, this bar likes to chant. Tom suggests they get Malcolm to return and write a valid will. Norm says he'll go get him. Alan points out that whoever goes will have an opportunity to sweet talk the guy. Sam suggests that Coach goes, and Coach thanks everyone for trusting him. An hour has passed, and Tom has typed out a legit will. Cliff tells him that he spelled Massachusetts wrong, and that it will not, and that the will is no good. That line actually made me laugh. I have kids that I tutor that are in Massachusetts, and one of the spelling words is Massachusetts, and not all of them know how to spell their state. Of course, and it's even funnier to me because he's an adult, and I'm thinking with these kids who are middle school age, I'm like, how can you not spell your state? And then we get this adult who spells it wrong. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it now. Okay. Tom confesses he is not a lawyer yet, but he takes his bar exam next month. Coach returns with Malcolm. Everyone applauds. Sam asks Coach what took him so long. Coach explains he had to clean out the car, put on the tire chains, and he says some other stuff too, I believe. Sam asks why he didn't take a cab, and Coach says it wasn't worth it because it's only a block to the hotel. Diane tells Malcolm that the people want him to repeat his wonderful gesture. But Sam explains that the will didn't clarify how the money should be split. They all try to get more of the money than the others. Diane suggests he gives it to his relatives, but Kramer, that's Malcolm's last name if you forgot, doesn't have any. Suggests he gives it to Charity. Carla says she is Charity. Malcolm signs it all over to Sam to split as he sees fit, and then he leaves. The gang argues, and Diane tells him to destroy the will. Sam says that everyone in the room gets an equal share. They all become angry, so Sam burns the will. He goes into his office. Carla looks at Diane and says, we should have killed her when we had the chance. And I'm not going to say any more except for the fact, remember that phrase because it'll be coming up sometime in the next few seasons. Diane goes into the office to thank Sam. Diane tells him that what he did was noble and he should be proud of himself. Sam says he is proud of himself, proud and rich. He shows her the will. He used sleight of hand magic to save the will and burn a fake piece of paper. Diane is angry. Sam says he saw how the others were acting, and this was the most logical thing to do, which really isn't too logical at all. More like greedy thing to do. He adds he will spend in a little at a time. He says he will split it with her and she can use it for charity. Diane thinks about all the good she can do, and then she says, and I can grab that fabulous silk dress at Claudine's. I assume Claudine's was either a maid of store or a store in Boston, in Massachusetts, or it was a store in the 80s before I was old enough to know what stores really were, because I've never heard of Claudine's. If anyone's familiar with Claudine's, feel free to respond on the things later, comments, or any of the social media things, an email, etc. and let me know about Claudine's, what you know about it. She realizes what she is doing and becomes upset again. She says she won't let him do that to his friends. Sam accuses her of blackmailing him for more money, and Diane says, I don't know you. I've never seen you like this. And I have to agree, and we'll get back to that in the discussions. Sam says, if that guy would kick off in 4 months, we would have that baby in the Atlantic by spring. Diane looks at him and he says, 6 months will be fine. Upset with how he's acting, he destroys the will. Diane says that they will put it behind him and she leaves the office. She then returns to confirm that he really destroyed it this time. He asks her after what he went through, does she really think you would do the same thing? Diane agrees, saying, anyone who would do something that vile would have guilt eating away at their guts for the rest of their life. She leaves and Sam burns the rail wall, saying that he hates her. My discussion. I gave this episode 3 out of 5 beer nuts. It was good, but not my favorite. As a Punky Brewster fan, growing up, I did enjoy seeing George Gaines, who played Henry Warnemont, as a guest star on Cheers. Um, Gaines was born in Finland. Um, I don't think he's, and in, I think he's the only actor I know that was born in Finland that I know. I'm not saying there isn't any, just he's the only one I know of. Back then it was still part of, I forgot what it was part of. Um, yeah, geography's not my strong point. Anyway, so I did like that part. However, I feel like Sam was very much out of character in this episode. I don't think Sam would betray his friends like this, and I can see why Dan would be surprised. Money does do things to people, so it could be, but it just doesn't seem like something Sam would do to me. However, I did give Ted Danson the MVP for this episode, not because I thought what his character did was well, but that was how it was written. He had to go with what script said. I think he did that very well. He played the part so well. His whole "oh my gosh, what am I doing" thing, and then like he was like, "oh good, he learned," and then he does it again. Yeah, I think he did an awesome job. Best dressed, I gave to Carla Tortelli. Grand Slam line. The Grand Slam line came from Tom and Coach and Norm. Tom, you must have had a high threshold for pain. Coach, I don't know the meaning of the word. Tom, pretty tough, eh? Norm, no, he doesn't know what threshold means. The on baseline, when Diane's in the office talking to Sam, she tells him, you have sunk so low you would need a step ladder to kiss a snake's hiney. A great line. Here's a little known fact. George Gaines went on to co-star in Punky Brewster. Punky Brewster aired from 1984 to 1988. So following season would have been when he started the show. The theme song in Punky Brewster, that's once every time I turn around. That song. It was written by Gary Portnoy and Judy Hart Angelo, who also wrote the Cheers theme song. And another connection to Punky Brewster and Cheers is my favorite NBC president, Brandon Tartikoff. He kept Cheers going because he liked it. He thought something was there when people wanted to cancel it. And he also wanted Punky Brewster made. So another connection. And if you like this episode, please like, subscribe, follow. Also, just so you know, if you can share, this would be a great thing because the more people that follow the episodes and watch the episodes, listen to the episodes, depending on what you're using to do this podcast, the more of you there are, the more the oh, that been grammar. The easier it tends to be to get people for interviews. I've already done 4 interviews now. I've done Kenneth Tiger. I did Miss Bonnie Bartlett. I did Derek McGrath, and I did Allison Ingram. Um, and I'd like to get more. I enjoy doing them. I know my fans, you guys, have expressed that you enjoy seeing them or listening to them. So share, let people know about the podcast. I'm going to show the other platform things and you can share those too. It's all cool. So we have the Facebook group that you can join. Cheers, that's one woman's opinion. And I try to keep them up to date with every episode. Not always as good on some as others, but I try. Instagram, Cheers One Woman's Opinion Podcast. Follow on that. Twitter X at One Woman's Opinion. Follow that. And as always, you can email us with questions, comments, etc. on Cheers One Woman's Opinion Podcast at gmail.com. Next week, we'll be looking at Cheers Season 2, Episode 13, Battle of the Exes, which means we finally get to see Nick Tortelli and Loretta. And that's One Woman's Opinion.